Elon Musk. He's suing new co-host Whoopi Goldberg, suspended for 2 weeks.
Now, words matter, and mine are no exception. I regret my comments.
Whoopi Goldberg, a staple of The View, is no longer sitting at the table after a dramatic fall from grace. The cause? A lawsuit was filed by none other than Elon Musk, who took serious issue with the bold claims Whoopi made on air about him. What started as a heated debate quickly turned into a full-blown legal battle, and Musk walked away victorious with an $80 million settlement. But the real question remains, was Whoopi's removal from The View about this lawsuit, or was there more going on behind the scenes?
Elon Musk took his son X to a press conference.
Whoopi Goldberg has never been afraid to speak her mind, but this time, her words came back to haunt her. During an episode of The View, what started as a discussion about politics quickly turned into a direct attack on Elon Musk. Whoopi and her co-hosts began throwing out bold accusations, claiming that Musk and Ohio Senator J.D. Vance were secretly working to silence Donald Trump behind the scenes.
Giving people information that they should not have because they're not the people whose information it is.
Then, Whoopi took it a step further. She confidently declared that Musk thinks he's the president, making it sound like the billionaire was trying to control politics in ways no one else could. And just when it seemed like she had made her point, she added a strange and unsettling remark. She told Trump to watch the stairways. It might have seemed like an offhand joke, but to many people, it sounded like a veiled threat. The comment immediately sparked controversy online, with critics accusing Whoopi of crossing the line. Musk, who is no stranger to criticism, had taken plenty of jabs from the media before. But this time, he wasn't about to let it slide. For Musk, these weren't just careless words. He saw them as serious attacks on his character, designed to turn public opinion against him. His legal team wasted no time in responding, arguing that The View had spread false information in a way that could be dangerous and damaging.
But, you know, they've had this whole thing about like hate speech, misinformation, whatever, except that they're the ones pushing the misinformation.
Elon Musk is not the kind of person to sit idly by while his name is dragged through the mud. Unlike many high-profile figures who choose to ignore media gossip or brush off public criticism, Musk has consistently shown that he is willing to take action when he feels he has been misrepresented. He has built a reputation for challenging misinformation head-on, often through direct social media responses or even legal measures. So when Whoopi Goldberg and the hosts of The View made claims about him that he believed to be defamatory, Musk didn't simply fire off a tweet in rebuttal. He took it a step further. He pursued legal action. According to Musk's legal team, the statements made on The View went beyond the realm of personal opinion and into the territory of outright misinformation. Whoopi Goldberg, a co-host of the show, allegedly accused Musk of being a political manipulator working behind the scenes to control government policies for his own gain. These allegations, Musk argued, were not just exaggerated or misleading. They were entirely false, and he was prepared to prove it. From the moment the lawsuit was filed, it became clear that this was not just another celebrity feud playing out in the media. Musk's legal team outlined a case that suggested The View had irresponsibly spread false claims about him, and they had the evidence to back it up. The lawsuit contended that the show's comments were not only reckless, but also damaging to Musk's reputation, credibility, and business ventures.
Free speech is meaningless unless you allow people you don't like to say things you don't like. Otherwise, it's irrelevant. And if at the point at which you lose free speech.
Musk's team emphasized that such statements, when made on a widely watched daytime television program, have significant consequences. As one of the most influential business figures in the world, Musk's words and actions are closely scrutinized by investors, policymakers, and the public. False allegations, especially those suggesting unethical or manipulative behavior, could lead to real-world ramifications, ranging from financial instability in his companies to potential security threats. Musk was not willing to let these accusations go unchecked, especially when they had the power to alter public perception on such a grand scale. As the lawsuit gained traction, the pressure mounted on The View and its parent network, ABC.
reflect and learn about the impact of her comments. The entire ABC News organization stands in solidarity with our Jewish colleagues.
Media outlets began dissecting the case, with legal analysts weighing in on whether Musk's claims held legal merit. Some argued that public figures like Musk are subject to criticism and scrutiny, which comes with the territory of being in the spotlight. Others contended that The View had crossed a line, using their platform to push narratives that had no factual basis. Musk's attorneys reinforced their argument by presenting examples of past cases where misinformation led to tangible harm, citing instances in which false media narratives resulted in reputational or financial damage. They pointed out that while media personalities and talk shows are entitled to their opinions, they also bear a responsibility to ensure their statements do not recklessly mislead viewers. The View, they argued, had failed in that responsibility. Meanwhile, The View and Whoopi Goldberg faced mounting criticism as public sentiment became increasingly polarized. Supporters of Musk rallied behind him, arguing that the media has long been irresponsible in its treatment of influential figures, often twisting narratives to fit particular agendas. On the other hand, defenders of Goldberg and The View insisted that talk shows are meant to be platforms for discussion, debate, and opinion, and that Musk was attempting to silence criticism through intimidation. Despite the divided opinions, one thing was clear. Musk's lawsuit was not just about his personal reputation. It was about accountability. He sought to make a broader statement about the responsibility of media outlets to be factual, especially when discussing individuals with significant influence. The legal battle underscored the growing tension between high-profile figures and the press, with Musk positioning himself as someone willing to take a stand against what he viewed as reckless journalism.
I'm in favor of freedom of speech. Yeah. And freedom of speech only is relevant when people you don't like say things you don't like. Otherwise, it has no meaning.
As the case proceeded, legal experts debated its potential impact. Some speculated that Musk's lawsuit could set a precedent for future cases involving media accountability, while others believed it would be difficult for him to prove that The View's statements met the legal standard for defamation. U.S. defamation laws require that a public figure demonstrate that false statements were made with actual malice, meaning that The View knew the statements were false or acted with reckless disregard for the truth. Musk's team was confident they could meet this standard, but legal battles of this nature are notoriously challenging. Meanwhile, Musk continued to use his social media platform to address the lawsuit, making it clear that his goal was not just to clear his name, but also to challenge the way certain media outlets operate. He argued that too often, the media is allowed to spread misleading information without consequences, and he was determined to change that. His supporters echoed his sentiments, amplifying the conversation around media ethics and responsible journalism. For The View and ABC, the stakes were also high. The lawsuit placed them under intense scrutiny, with critics questioning their editorial standards and their commitment to factual reporting. Some speculated that ABC might push for an out-of-court settlement to avoid prolonged legal battles and further damage to the network's credibility. Others believed the network would fight the case aggressively, arguing that Musk's lawsuit was an attack on free speech. Regardless of the outcome, the lawsuit signaled a turning point in the ongoing debate about media accountability. If Musk were to win, it could set a precedent that would make talk shows and other media platforms more cautious about making unverified claims about public figures. If he were to lose, it would reinforce the idea that public figures must accept a certain level of scrutiny and criticism, even if they believe it to be unfair. As the case moved forward, the broader implications became more apparent. In an era where misinformation can spread rapidly through both traditional and digital media, the question of accountability has never been more relevant. Musk's legal challenge against The View was not just about one person or one show. It was about the larger battle over truth, responsibility, and the power of media narratives.
It's time for Lefties Losing It. Just when you think the shrews of The View couldn't sink any lower, they go and surprise you by mocking a cute little child.
Whoopi Goldberg found herself at the center of a storm the moment the backlash against her comments began. What started as just another day on The View quickly spiraled into a public relations disaster. Rather than taking full responsibility for her words, she followed a familiar path taken by many public figures when caught in controversy. She attempted to backtrack, but in doing so, she only made matters worse.
Whoopi should refrain from mocking a 4-year-old for the name his parents gave him. Yes, Whoopi picked that name for herself. She's actually Karen Elaine Johnson. Now, how did Karen become Whoopi? You're going to love this. According to Goldberg,
Initially, Whoopi downplayed the situation, insisting that her remarks were being misinterpreted. She argued that people had taken her words about Elon Musk out of context, and that they were simply part of the usual banter that takes place on The View. According to her, it wasn't meant to be taken seriously, just a casual discussion among panelists. However, the public wasn't convinced. The controversy wasn't just about the specific words she used. It was about the way she wielded her platform. People were frustrated by what they saw as the irresponsible use of her influence to spread misinformation or push a particular narrative. As the criticism mounted, she took another approach. Rather than owning up to the controversy and acknowledging any wrongdoing, she attempted to shift the narrative entirely. In what many saw as a bizarre twist, Whoopi claimed that her comments weren't about Musk or politics at all. Instead, she suggested she had been referring to an incident at home where her cat had tripped her. It was a defense that left many people scratching their heads. How could a discussion about a major public figure suddenly transform into a story about a pet mishap? The explanation felt forced, as though she was grasping for any way to change the conversation. But the damage had already been done, and no one was buying it. The response from both fans and critics was swift. Social media erupted with reactions, with many calling out Whoopi for what they saw as an attempt to evade accountability. Users mocked her explanation, questioning why she would think such an implausible excuse would be accepted. The backlash wasn't just about her words, it was about the way she handled the situation. Rather than facing the issue head-on, she seemed to be doing everything she could to deflect and distract. It's not uncommon for celebrities to find themselves in hot water over controversial statements, but how they respond can make all the difference. Some choose to acknowledge their mistake, apologize, and move on. Others, like Whoopi in this instance, attempt to rewrite the narrative in a way that only fuels further criticism. This approach often backfires, as it did in her case, making the controversy last longer than it might have otherwise. The internet can be unforgiving, especially when it comes to high-profile figures attempting to avoid responsibility. People expect authenticity, and when they sense dishonesty or evasion, they respond accordingly. The more Whoopi tried to steer the conversation away from what she had actually said, the more people doubled down in calling her out. Memes, sarcastic tweets, and lengthy discussions flooded social media platforms. Instead of dying down, the controversy continued to gain traction. Whoopi has a long history of being outspoken, and her presence on The View has often been marked by strong opinions. This isn't the first time she's been at the center of controversy, but the way she handled this particular incident seemed to erode some of the public's trust in her. Many who had previously supported her found themselves disappointed by her unwillingness to simply address the issue head-on. For a public figure like Whoopi, the stakes are always high when addressing backlash. There's a fine line between standing by one's words and recognizing when something has gone too far. The way she handled this controversy serves as a reminder of how quickly things can spiral when an attempt at damage control is mishandled. The situation also highlights a broader issue in the media landscape: how influential figures use their platforms and the responsibilities that come with that influence. In an era where misinformation spreads quickly, audiences are more critical than ever. When celebrities or public figures make questionable claims, they are expected to either provide evidence or acknowledge their misstep. In Whoopi's case, her failure to do so only fueled the controversy further. Had she addressed the backlash differently, she might have been able to move past it much more quickly. A simple, straightforward acknowledgement of the controversy, along with an explanation or apology, could have diffused the situation. Instead, her attempts to deflect only made things worse. the moment she tried to claim that the entire incident was about her cat rather than Elon Musk, she lost whatever credibility she had left in the situation. It's clear that the public values honesty, especially in moments of controversy. When celebrities attempt to sidestep responsibility, they often find themselves in even deeper trouble. The backlash against Whoopi wasn't just about her original comments. It was about her refusal to be upfront about them. If there's one lesson to be learned from this incident, it's that transparency and accountability matter. Without them, even the most respected figures can find themselves losing public trust. As the controversy continues to play out, the long-term impact on Whoopi's reputation remains to be seen. Some fans will likely stand by her, while others may view this as yet another instance of a public figure refusing to take responsibility. Whether or not she acknowledges her handling of the situation in the future, this incident will likely serve as a cautionary tale for other celebrities navigating similar controversies. When faced with backlash, the best course of action is often the simplest. Acknowledge, take responsibility, and move on. Unfortunately for Whoopi, she chose a different path, and now she's facing the consequences. What began as just another heated discussion on The View quickly escalated into a situation far more serious than anyone could have anticipated. Initially, it seemed like Whoopi Goldberg was simply facing the usual backlash for making controversial statements, a scenario that had played out numerous times in the past. However, things took an unexpected turn when reports surfaced that federal authorities had become involved, investigating whether her remarks had gone beyond the realm of provocative talk show commentary and into legal or security concerns. This revelation changed everything. Goldberg's offhanded comments about Elon Musk and Senator J.D. Vance were no longer just fodder for social media debates. They had become a matter of federal interest. The uproar stemmed from her suggestion that Musk was manipulating political outcomes and a cryptic remark implying that former President Donald Trump should watch the stairways. While some dismissed these statements as nothing more than Goldberg's signature brand of fiery rhetoric, others perceived them as potentially dangerous, prompting questions about whether a legal boundary had been crossed. Musk's legal team wasted no time in seizing the opportunity to push back. They asserted that the statements made on The View were more than just sensationalized television chatter. They were damaging accusations that could mislead the public, harm reputations, and even influence political outcomes. With federal authorities reportedly looking into the matter, Musk's argument gained even more traction. His legal representatives emphasized the potential consequences of high-profile media personalities, spreading what they considered to be reckless misinformation. As the controversy gained momentum, media outlets across the spectrum weighed in. The situation sparked a much larger debate about the role of talk show hosts in shaping public discourse and whether they should be held accountable for their words. Critics accused The View of routinely blurring the lines between entertainment and journalism, using its platform to push narratives without facing significant consequences. Supporters of Goldberg and the show, however, argued that it was a place for lively discussions and differing opinions, not a source of hard news. The divide between these perspectives became more evident as various commentators and legal analysts chimed in. Some pointed out that The View, while influential, was ultimately an opinion-based program, and its hosts should not be scrutinized the same way as traditional journalists. Others countered that the show's massive audience and its hosts' ability to shape public perception made it imperative for them to exercise greater responsibility in their statements. The legal implications of the case also became a hot topic. First Amendment experts debated whether Goldberg's remarks constituted protected speech or if they veered into legally actionable territory. While freedom of speech is a fundamental right, it does not extend to speech that incites harm or spreads knowingly false and damaging information. The question was whether Goldberg's comments fell into the latter category. Meanwhile, Goldberg herself responded to the controversy, dismissing the allegations against her as overblown and taken out of context. She maintained that her remarks were meant to be provocative, not literal threats or accusations. Her defenders insisted that the backlash was another example of political overreach, with powerful figures like Musk using their influence to suppress dissenting opinions.
What she said was inaccurate.
However, Not everyone was convinced by Goldberg's explanation. Some critics pointed to the growing trend of high-profile media personalities making incendiary remarks and then backtracking when faced with public scrutiny. They argued that if talk show hosts were allowed to make bold claims without accountability, it could contribute to the erosion of trust in media and public discourse. As the investigation unfolded, the network behind The View found itself in an increasingly difficult position. Calls for stricter oversight of the show intensified, with some advocating for clearer guidelines on what could and couldn't be said on air. The debate extended beyond Goldberg and The View, touching on the broader issue of how mainstream media platforms balance free expression with responsible communication.
The best way to counter bad opinions is with good opinion.
Political figures and media watchdogs also entered the discussion, each offering their take on the controversy. Conservative commentators framed the situation as an example of media bias and double standards, arguing that if a right-leaning talk show host had made similar remarks, the backlash would have been even more severe. Progressives, on the other hand, viewed the investigation as an overreaction, warning that it could set a dangerous precedent for restricting speech on opinion-based programs. The impact of the controversy on Goldberg's career and The View's reputation remained uncertain. While the show had weathered numerous controversies in the past, this situation was unique in its involvement of federal authorities. If the investigation led to legal action or stricter broadcasting regulations, it could reshape the way talk shows operate moving forward. Despite the legal and ethical debates, one thing was clear. The incident had sparked a national conversation about the responsibilities of media personalities in today's hyper-polarized climate. With misinformation and politically charged narratives spreading rapidly through various media channels, the role of talk shows in shaping public perception was more significant than ever. Whether this situation would lead to meaningful changes in the industry or simply serve as another fleeting controversy remained to be seen. As the dust settled, many were left questioning where the line should be drawn. Should talk show hosts be given complete freedom to express their opinions, even if their words have serious consequences? Or should they be held to higher standards, given their influence over millions of viewers? The answers to these questions would likely shape media discourse in the years to come.
Hey, you know who? Stay away from the stairways.
Whoopi Goldberg had been a fixture on The View for years, but after the controversy with Elon Musk, everything changed. ABC officially confirmed that Whoopi was removed from the show, but the reason behind her departure isn't as simple as it seems. Some believe this was a direct result of Musk's lawsuit, while others think ABC made a strategic decision to protect its brand from further damage. Either way, Whoopi's time on the show had reached a breaking point. The backlash against her comments had been relentless. Social media exploded with criticism, calling her out for spreading false and reckless claims. The federal investigation into whether her words posed a security threat only made things worse. Suddenly, Whoopi wasn't just dealing with public outrage. She was at the center of a controversy that had serious legal implications. Insiders say Whoopi felt completely overwhelmed by the scrutiny. What started as a heated debate turned into something much bigger, and the pressure kept mounting. Some reports suggest that she chose to step away, realizing that staying on the show would only keep her under a microscope. Others argue that ABC saw her as a liability and decided to cut ties before things got worse. Whoopi Goldberg's recent removal from The View sparked major headlines, but it's just one chapter in the long history of controversies surrounding the show. For years, the popular daytime talk show has been criticized for blurring the lines between entertainment and journalism. While it presents itself as a platform for informed discussions, many argue that it often prioritizes drama, sensationalism, and heated debates over fact-based reporting. Instead of fostering meaningful conversations, critics claim The View has become a battleground for unchecked statements and bold claims that aren't always supported by evidence. The latest controversy surrounding Goldberg only intensified these concerns. It all began when she made remarks about Elon Musk, accusing him of attempting to silence former President Donald Trump. Her statement, combined with a cryptic comment about watching the stairways, quickly escalated into a full-blown scandal. Though her words may have seemed like just another moment of on-air friction, they carried significant weight. In today's media landscape, where statements can have immediate real-world implications, such claims cannot be taken lightly. The backlash that followed raised a broader question. How much responsibility do talk shows like The View have when it comes to the accuracy of their discussions?
Wait a second, come on, man, this is too...
This incident is far from an isolated case. Over the years, The View has faced repeated accusations of misleading audiences. With its mix of celebrity guests, political discussions, and personal opinions, the show has often walked a fine line between commentary and factual discourse. Critics argue that its hosts frequently present personal viewpoints as though they are undeniable truths, leading to confusion among viewers. Without clear distinctions between facts and opinions, the show risks shaping public perception in ways that may not always be grounded in reality. One of the loudest voices calling out The View for its approach has been former Fox News and NBC host Megyn Kelly. She has openly questioned whether the show still serves a legitimate purpose, given its repeated controversies. Kelly isn't alone in her criticism. Many viewers and media analysts have echoed similar sentiments, arguing that The View has evolved into a platform that thrives on conflict rather than constructive dialogue. The fundamental issue at play is whether a program like The View, which blends political discussion with entertainment, should be held to the same standards as traditional news outlets. In an era where misinformation spreads rapidly, there's growing concern over how much influence daytime talk shows wield. While the show doesn't claim to be a hard news program, its discussions often shape public opinion on major issues. This raises ethical questions about whether the hosts and producers have a responsibility to fact-check statements before presenting them to millions of viewers.
I think Elon Musk believes he's president. I do.
Well, you've been calling him vice president.
I've called him vice president. I called him president because I don't know what JD is doing.
Beyond the Whoopi Musk scandal, there have been numerous moments when The View found itself at the center of controversy. From politically charged debates to public feuds between co-hosts, the show has repeatedly drawn criticism for its approach to discourse. While some argue that the unscripted nature of the discussions is what makes the show engaging, others believe it leads to a lack of accountability. When bold claims are made without supporting evidence, misinformation can spread easily, reinforcing biases rather than encouraging informed conversations. This ongoing debate highlights a larger issue within modern media. How do audiences differentiate between entertainment and journalism? In today's fast-paced news cycle, talk shows, social media platforms, and even comedy programs often play a significant role in shaping people's views. However, the line between opinion-based commentary and factual reporting is increasingly blurred, making it difficult for viewers to discern credible information. As The View continues to navigate these controversies, its future remains uncertain. Will it take steps to ensure more responsible discussions? Or will it continue embracing its reputation for fiery debates and headline-making moments? Either way, the recent Whoopi Goldberg scandal has once again placed the show under intense scrutiny, forcing both its hosts and audience to reconsider the impact of its content.
Whoopi Goldberg is now making fun of Elon's kid's name as the audience laughs, picking on a child. She's evil.
As soon as the news of Whoopi Goldberg's removal from The View spread, social media went into overdrive. Fans and critics alike had strong opinions about her downfall, and they weren't holding back. For some, it was a moment of vindication. One tweet read, "Whoopi Goldberg has lied about Elon Musk multiple times. This lawsuit proves that media figures are not untouchable." It was clear that the public was seeing this as a wake-up call for talk show hosts who think they can say whatever they want without facing consequences.
People who cry about bullying have no problem doing it themselves. And Whoopi Goldberg didn't stop her criticism at the toddler. She blasted Elon Musk for being transparent in his new role.
Others took to Twitter to point out that this wasn't just a moment for Whoopi. It was a reflection of the damage that The View and its hosts had caused over the years. One person wrote, "The damage Whoopi and her View co-hosts have done over the years is finally catching up with them." For critics, this wasn't an isolated incident. It was a culmination of reckless claims and sensationalism that had plagued the show, and they felt it was time for the consequences to finally land. On the flip side, there were plenty of fans who felt like Whoopi was being silenced for speaking her mind. They argued that the entire situation was a case of cancel culture at its worst. Many took to social media to defend her, saying she was simply expressing her opinion and shouldn't have been punished for it. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.